parent do if they suspect that their child is being bullied?
I think that the first thing, there's lots of do's and don'ts, I think, in this answer. But if you do suspect that your child is being bullied, there's lots of signs, by the way: school refusal, maybe unexplained marks or injuries, or lower self-esteem than usual, without like a known cause. So when you start to kind of see these red flags, you want to keep an open mind when you approach them, I think, with the questioning. A lot of times, if you assume things, such as also kind of questioning what they may have done to precipitate aggression, it sends the wrong message to the child that it's almost like a victim blaming. So making sure that you're keeping an open mind and asking open-ended questions, rather than assuming that, well, you must have done something. It's important to make sure that also when you're kind of inquiring on what's going on, that you give them the skills to be able to address and communicate effectively, with the assertiveness, with healthy boundary setting, and being able to brainstorm on their own and come up with solutions on their own before you jump in and say, let's fix this. Because again, I think that is the instinct.
Absolutely.
And I don't blame it. I think that it's the skill building piece that's the most important too.
So what should the parent not do?
I don't think you should jump to conclusions immediately,
Right.
because you really have to, again, as we started this conversation, there's a difference between bullying,
Mm-hmm.
which is pervasive and is happening all the time, and your child is fearful. There's a big difference between having a disagreement with a friend or with children who you may be a little less friendly with,
Mm-hmm.
which is usually temporary, and actually being bullied. Because once you go into a school district and you state that your child is being bullied, that triggers a whole bunch of things that have to take place legally. Every single school district in the United States has a bullying/harassment policy. It is very, very complete, and it tells parents exactly what they're going to do if you state that. You'll also have to fill out a form about the bullying, who is doing the bullying. So once you bring up bullying, it does trigger a whole chain of events. So be very cautious before you do that, and make sure it is in fact bullying rather than just disagreements a bunch of kids, because there's a big difference.
Yeah, and I think also like capitalizing on the resources that are set in the school as a means of support for the child is essential. There's a reason why there's a school counselor. And so I think too, having those safe spaces to go and be able to process that when mom and dad aren't around, to be able to address those needs in the moment is really important. I'm a really big proponent of a multidisciplinary collaborative approach. So if there is conflict in the school system, I think it does warrant that if a counselor is open and available, or a safe person such as a teacher or administrator that has a nice bond or connection with the child, that's a huge protective factor. And I think that it warrants creating a plan, right? So creating a safety plan. You know, if I feel unsafe, this is number one, this is what I can do. I can go to this person, or I can do this or say this. And again, it's that empowerment of the child.
Absolutely.
You know.
But the important thing is this: if in fact your child is being bullied, you have a right and a responsibility to your child to make sure that the proper people know that it's happening, and that they begin the procedures that they know that they have to follow to stop it. Every single child has a right to a free and public education,
To feel safe.
and to feel safe, whether it's in camp or whether it's in school or on the playground, in a neighborhood
So what
playground.
I'm hearing is that the parent should not call or text the other child's parent, or go to the parent's
Absolutely.
house, right, the other child's house, and confront the parent.
I think that that's probably one of the later interventions that they could make with more supports, probably through a school setting, and maybe administrators facilitating that conversation, because often it becomes ugly. If, let's say, the receiving party of the parents of the alleged bully becomes defensive, aggressive back, or it becomes counterproductive in conversation, and then creates probably more animosity between the peers. And so I think that shouldn't be the first line. Again, I think the first line is empowering that kid to be able to see if they can solve it with some tools and safety and supports. If that doesn't work, then you go to administration. And if that doesn't work, then you have other resources through legal means as well.